Erwan Jacob from Delivery Hero. I'm sure many of you know Delivery Hero, one of the other unicorns that we have in Germany, and I think a huge transformer in many directions. So transformer probably starting from Germany, then kind of going to Europe, but even now a global company, and now kind of having more revenue outside of Europe than actually in Europe. One level of transformation, kind of geo. The other level is platform, starting more as a web business, transforming into an app business. The second level and the third level of transformation I find really impressive on Delivery Hero is really going from food delivery to beyond food delivery, grocery delivery. So amazing success. And I personally know Erwan since probably almost 10 years when he was working at Groupon and Rocket Internet, Zalando, so many outstanding companies you worked for, and thanks for sharing all your insights. Today you lead up the search marketing for Delivery Hero. Over to you, Erwan.
Thank you, Domi. Hope you're hearing me well. So first and foremost, we talk about favorite app in Black Friday. Favorite app, the one I've been using quite a lot lately is an app called Brilliant, which is essentially an app that brings me back to my memories as a student, going back into algebra, geometry, statistics, and since there's not so much time spent on socializing in the evening, so I may as well, I actually went over to use that app quite often, and I really recommend it. It's quite fascinating. So that's the first point. The second point is Black Friday. So what have I planned to do? I got a concession from my wife that I can actually finally buy a wine fridge. It's been a long discussion, and to actually get to the point where I am allowed now to buy one. And being French, and probably the only French person who doesn't have a wine fridge at home, I think that's going to be the plan for today. So back to Delivery Hero. Thanks for the intro, Domi, again. So I'm going to talk you through app innovation at the time of a global pandemic. So if you go to the next slide. Very quickly, Delivery at a glance. I guess you know who we are, but in a nutshell, we are a corporate group. We have more than 27,000 employees globally, with headquarters in Berlin. We have footprints in pretty much all the continents, and like Domi said, so we are actually growing now faster outside of Europe than in Europe itself. We are a world's leading local delivery platform, and not only for food delivery. We are obviously known on food delivery, but it's not the only thing that we do. We also have groceries and developing into new verticals. That's essentially a big strategy for us. And we have monthly deliveries in excess of 120 million, growing at 100% rates. That's pretty phenomenal, and it's been like the case for the last couple of years. And as you probably know, we are a publicly listed company and recently entered the DAX in August 2020. So if you can move to the next slide, we'll tell you about COVID. So COVID is actually an interesting story for us because this graph shows you the evolution of orders from February up until October this year. And the red line that you see in the middle, this is the evolution for the group. So we were growing already quite fast prior to COVID, and this dotted line in the middle represents the date, 11th of March, where COVID-19 was declared global pandemic. And since then, yes, there was a dip, but then we recouped quite quickly from that levels, and have been growing at a consistent rate since then. But it doesn't highlight, what it highlights as well is that it's a very different situation per segment. So if you look at the bottom line, the white at the bottom of this graph, this represents the evolution for Middle East, North Africa. And you can see that we dropped quite massively, exactly that one. Thanks for the pointer. 40% orders drop for that segment. And that's as a result of two things. So there's a seasonal effect with Ramadan that was essentially planned and not so much of a surprise. But the biggest one has been the lockdown, because lockdown in that part of the world meant the riders were not able to operate and go to any customers in some cities. The restaurants were completely shut, even for food delivery. So this essentially meant that it took up until the end of August for us to recoup to the level that we had in March in that segment. On the other hand, you have the curve, which is the one above, which is America, and the sort of like a pinkish color. Yeah, exactly that one. Americas, which is Latin America for us, there was a small dip after March, but very quickly the curve has been going up to reaching essentially 80% growth from October up, basically from March up until October. And the result of that is, well, let's say the cause of that is two things. First, we established that that's part of the world. We established the industry. Food delivery obviously was there already, but it just was established as a mainstream behavior for customers, which wasn't necessarily there prior to COVID. And the second thing, we've been also massively investing in grocery delivery, pharmacy delivery, even concierge service in that part of the world. And that's the reason why this segment has been the fastest growing for us since March 2020. So this view is on orders, but I don't have a slide for that, but if we're considering acquisitions, so new customers, we will see a quite different picture. In actual fact, the very first part of COVID, the first phase, we grew a lot in acquisition, acquiring not only new customers and different audience, typically like a slightly older audience who haven't interacted with our platform yet. And also we actually managed to sign in some restaurant that we are not partnering before. So people were essentially in a situation where they could only deliver some business with food delivery platforms. So that's been the key trends for us. Orders growing at a good path, but acquisition growing even faster. If you go to the next slide, I'll tell you through a couple of product innovations. So product innovation in our app, that's essentially two sides. There's the consumer side, and one of the fundamental change that happened with COVID is a change in payment methods. So we were essentially incentivized to use cashless methodologies. There are lots of markets using cash and delivery, and essentially we're trying to essentially promote cash-free options. So that's why the app came really handy to just come to the situation. It's also very important for us to secure the safety of users, but also riders. We've been involved, obviously, in lots of movements at quite a difficult time. So that's why we stigmatize the need to have no contact delivery. So between the pickup, the drop off of the food, we try to really minimize the amount of contacts that they could have with riders, with restaurants and with customers. But we still maintain online tipping system. So it was very important for us to keep the riders, obviously incentivized and motivated to have like the opportunity for users to use online tipping options. We also developed the rider app quite a lot because it's been very important for us to keep riders always updated on the situation. It could be that literally from 1 hour to another one, there's a different policy in a different city or for a different restaurant. So we need to be sure that the riders are aware that there's potential danger in an area, so that they know about it before. And lastly, in terms of product innovation, we also developed initiatives called Share the Meal, which is an incentive that's been very successful to incentivize customers to do online donations. And I think we also been very successful with that one. So if you go to the next slide, I'll tell you through also one of the big strategy change that happened for us in 2020. So we introduced essentially a notion of quick commerce. So quick commerce wasn't born with COVID. It was already something that we planned as a strategy before, but essentially COVID helped it to make it even more obvious and important for the company. So you guys know obviously what commerce is about. You know what e-commerce is about. There's lots of experts in this meeting. But quick commerce, the main differences with e-commerce are down to a couple of things. First, delivery time. We're talking about delivering within 1 hour. Even in some cases, delivery literally within minutes, a couple of minutes. That's the first fundamental difference with e-commerce. The second difference is that we're talking about small selection of articles. So we're not talking about all products. We're talking about first necessity products. We're talking about diapers. We're talking about aspirins. We're talking about eggs and milk. Everything that you actually need on the spot, and you need to have it delivered right now. In terms of delivery method, we're also using two-wheeled vehicle as opposed to delivery trucks. We're using local store or local warehouses, so not the mega warehouses, which are quite common in the e-commerce world. In terms of audience, we're talking about different type of audience. We're talking about mostly single-person households, not so much families as such, but pretty much individuals. And for them, it's not so much about discounts, it's more about speed, convenience, affordability. So that's been exactly the messaging that we've been conveying with quick commerce. So quick commerce is not a small business. If you go to the next slide, it's actually a business which is estimated at 448 billion euros globally by the end of 2030. It's significant because it's a part that is the fastest growing part of like the overall huge e-commerce markets, which is itself estimated at 6.8 trillion euros globally. But this environment of e-commerce, as you know, for new players to come in, it's quite difficult. It's very challenging, lots of competition, lots of like difficulties to enter the markets. Whereas like quick commerce, there are more untapped opportunities and it's a more underpenetrated market for itself. So we are still a small part of it, but we expect to grow quite massively in that world, in that field. And this is why we are focusing a lot of efforts with quick commerce. We go to the next slide. So quick commerce is actually two things. It's two different sort of relationship. It's a hybrid business model. We partner first with the local stores, so local shops, and essentially help them to sort of deliver even faster to our customers. So it's like a bit of like a media, marketplace environment. But we also build our own store and all, let's say, corners in order to take care of the logistics by ourselves. And this has been helped tremendously by the fact that app is growing extremely fast. So we were like maybe a couple of years ago still a web mainly environment. It's moved into an app mainly environment, let's say 2017, 2018. But now we're talking about almost an app only markets when talked about the global share of orders. This is going to be reaching in 2020 about 90% of the total. So for retention, for existing customers, it's all on app. When it comes to acquisitions, when we talk about how to bring new customers to the platforms, this is where web is still going to be very important. So we still manage a lot of web campaigns in performance marketing, but essentially the view for them is that still at the end of the day that the retention will happen on the app. So if you go to the next slide, which is the last slide of my presentation, the couple of learnings of this year, which has been a very interesting year for sure. Innovation and diversification are extremely important. It's been mentioned a couple of times by other speakers today, but for us, diversification into quick commerce and all the various different verticals within quick commerce has been extremely important and has been paying off for us in challenging times where essentially we couldn't grow anywhere else. Very important to stay fast and flexible and adapt to the market context, like I've seen with the different continents that I presented. There's a very different situation from Middle East to Asia. Asia experienced the COVID phase earlier than other segments. So it's been very important for us to adapt, even in the way that we manage budget or even the way that we manage all priorities as a performance marketing team. And lastly, it's almost like a best practice and best recipe for marketing in general. So it's very important to convey the right message to the right user at the right time. So extending the service adaptation to marketing messages in the case of users, in the case of riders, very importantly, security first, safety first for riders and users. That's also being a big learning for us and a key to success. So thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, please use the chat.
Thanks, Erwan. So I think I took away particularly the element that you mentioned around the retention being more the app-centric model and the acquisition coming more from the web channels. I think it's actually a good combination, and you show really well that it's both channels that make a difference. Great to hear that.